What happens when the streets meet audacity? When a man who's been in and out of jail his entire life suddenly decides to laugh in the face of authority, rival gangs, and the law itself? That's the story of King Von, a man who didn't just break rules. He invented new ways to disrespect them. Imagine being cuffed, surrounded by armed officers, and still casually admitting you're in jail for murder and attempted murder. Like it's a coffee run? Shocking, right? But that's Von. That's the kind of guy who, while inside Chicago's deadliest blocks, turned survival into a full-on performance. A chess game where every punch, every lie, and every smirk was a calculated move. Leaked footage shows him escaping cuffs, intimidating rivals, and even pretending to be something he's not all to survive. He didn't just play the game, he rewrote it. And the craziest this video? The world was watching. Police, gang members, fans. Everyone got a front row seat to the chaos. But here's the real question. How much of King Von's legend is street genius and how much is pure, unfiltered disrespect? Buckle up, because what you're about to see will challenge everything you thought you knew about drill rap. Chicago streets, and the most fearless and reckless man to ever carry the name King Von. King Von wasn't just another name in the Chicago drill scene. No, this was a man whose life was a non-stop spectacle of audacity, danger, and complete disrespect for anyone or anything standing in his way. The story begins long before the rap lights, long before Lil Durk's mentorship, and long before any of us even knew that Crazy Story would dominate speakers across the country. Back in 2016, Von, real name Devin Daquin Bennett, was already a legend in the making, not for music, but for surviving and thriving in environments where most would crumble. He spent more formative years in jail than in classrooms, and every cell, every corridor, every surveillance camera he passed seemed to watch him sharpen his instincts. 15 years old and already running into trouble, he admitted in one interview, "I got in trouble early. I ain't never been grown until like right now." That wasn't just a line. That was a warning. King Von wasn't learning to play by the rules. He was learning to rewrite them entirely. The infamous O Block, one of the deadliest neighborhoods in Chicago, wasn't a playground, it was a proving ground. Growing up there meant exposure to violence, betrayal, and alliances that could change with the wind. Von's connections with the Black Disciples, or BDS for those familiar with Chicago gang politics, shaped his identity, both as a man and later as a rapper. He earned the name King Von not because of music or fame, but because he carried himself like King David. A founding figure in the BDS, older gang members watching him move through the streets saw the same calm ferocity, the same ruthless precision, and the same unflinching confidence. To be called grandson in those circles wasn't just a nickname, it was a title. A nod to a young man carrying the weight of the streets on his shoulders while learning the rules of survival that few would ever understand. By 2016, jail footage made it clear that Von was a force to be reckoned with. CCTV cameras caught him and another inmate confronting and attacking someone in full view of correctional officers. The guards barely had time to react before punches were thrown, yet Von's composure never wavered. He wasn't scared. He wasn't apologetic. When interviewed afterward, he shrugged and said almost nothing, letting the footage speak for him. This wasn't random violence. This was strategic intimidation. Every glance, every movement, every word or lack thereof was calculated. Von understood that respect could be commanded with audacity, not with charm. He had perfected the art of being untouchable while being in plain sight. By 2017, Von had evolved from the reckless teenager into a master manipulator of environments that would terrify most men. Footage shows him confronting inmates, picking fights, and somehow slipping out of handcuffs, all without explanation. Even in situations where anyone else would have folded, Von played chess while everyone else played checkers. One incident, which has since sparked endless debate, involved a dorm transfer where he faced imminent danger from rival gang members. Most people would have faced the threat head-on or requested protective custody, risking the wrath of inmates and insiders. Not Von. Instead, he concocted a plan so audacious it made police officers and fellow inmates question reality. He pretended to be gay. In a prison system where being gay is a protected characteristic, it allowed him to avoid the dorm without snitching, without submitting, without losing an ounce of respect. Critics called it against the prison code, even dangerous, but insiders laughed. Vaughn didn't break rules. He bent them in ways only he could imagine, and while all this was going on, Vaughn never stopped creating chaos in public view. In February 2018, video surfaced showing him handcuffed in a police car, calmly joking with officers, casually admitting he was in jail for a murder and 2 attempted murders as if he were ordering fries at a drive-thru. The officers were visibly stunned. Here was a man who had been in the system long enough to know every loophole, every angle, every possible reaction, and yet he still decided to push the envelope further. It wasn't arrogance, it was survival. And the audacity of it? Absolutely cinematic. If this had been a movie, people would have called it unrealistic. But it wasn't. This was Vaughn Dott even as his rap career started to take off later that year, with Lil Durk bringing him onto the OTF label and releasing his first single. Crazy story, Vaughn never shed the persona of the street tactician. Drill rap had always been aggressive, but Vaughn brought storytelling to a cinematic level, weaving tales of loyalty, betrayal, and survival that mirrored his real life. Every lyric was a reenactment of streets he knew too well, every bar a reflection of a man who understood both the art of the hustle and the mechanics of respect. And yet, he couldn't help himself, he continued to speak freely. Even in interviews, revealing details about past crimes and confrontations that most would keep buried. The world saw his genius, but only insiders truly understood the danger of a man who could mix charm, violence, and strategy into one lethal package. By early 2019, Vaughn's life was a powder keg ready to explode. A shooting outside Atlanta's Varsity restaurant where Vaughn, Lil Durk, and associates exchanged gunfire with a member of the Vice Lords gang left 13 shots fired and chaos in its wake. Witnesses described people collapsing, cars screeching, and the night erupting into mayhem that could have been scripted for a blockbuster. Back in Chicago, a scheduled concert was canceled, prompting a massive police raid. Assault rifles, handcuffs, and snarling officers swarmed the crowd. Vaughn himself was tackled, his chain seized, yet even here, he managed to crack jokes about Valentine's Day and oversized hoodies, all while staying calm under extreme pressure. Lil Durk's $250,000 bail for himself was overshadowed by Vaughn coughing up $300,000, a testament not to arrogance, but to the reality that he was living life on the razor's edge and paying the cost for being King Von Dott, but the streets never forget. Rival gang members, surveillance footage, leaked interviews, and anonymous sources all paint a portrait of a man who was feared, respected, and envied in equal measure. Friends like Le Capone had been lost to the very system Vaughn navigated daily, targeted over claims and disputes too small for outsiders to comprehend but deadly in Chicago's coded streets. Vaughn's response to these threats was consistent. He escalated, he adapted, he dominated. His cleverness, his audacity, and his sheer disrespect for anyone who dared to challenge him made him both untouchable and inevitably vulnerable. And while fans celebrated his rise in music, insiders knew the truth: the streets had no loyalty, and respect only lasts until the next bullet flies. What sets King Vaughn apart from countless other stories of street violence and rap fame is not just the criminal record or the flashy lifestyle, it's the way he orchestrated every encounter. Jail cells, police interrogations, rival gangs, rap interviews. Nothing was random. Even pretending to be gay to avoid death in a dorm? That wasn't desperation. That was strategy. Every move was calculated to protect himself, to maintain his aura, to remind everyone watching that he controlled the narrative. Even in environments designed to strip power away, and yet, for all his brilliance, Vaughn couldn't escape the gravity of the world he inhabited. The streets, the fame, the enemies, and the police, every factor was a ticking clock, counting down to the inevitable. Each incident, each fight, each viral clip of him calmly outmaneuvering authority only built the legend. And yet the legend was fragile. Vaughn's audacity drew attention, not just admiration, and while fans saw entertainment, rivals saw opportunity. The result? A life lived on display, thrilling to watch, dangerous to touch, and impossible to ignore. By the time 2019 rolled in, King Von had become a master at survival, a storyteller who lived his narratives in real time, a man who could charm, fight, manipulate, and entertain with the same breath. But the same audacity that made him untouchable also made him a target. The streets don't forgive, the system doesn't forget, and fame only amplifies every mistake, every insult, every punch thrown or chain taken. Von's life was a series of escalating events, each one more shocking than the last, each one cementing the dual legacy of genius and chaos. The dual legacy of genius and chaos. And as the videos, police reports, and leaked testimonies show, he never backed down, never apologized, and never let anyone disrespect him without consequence. And just when you think you've seen the extent of King Von's boldness, the story twists again. Rival gangs, legal entanglements, and public perception collided in ways that only amplified his infamy. Surveillance cameras captured moments so audacious, so reckless, that even seasoned officers would shake their heads. Interviews revealed a man who could joke about murder charges while simultaneously intimidating everyone in the room. The streets whispered, fans cheered, police strategized, and Von just kept moving. It was a game of chess played at full speed. Bullets, cuffs, and cameras as the pieces. And Von always seemed 2 moves ahead. One thing becomes crystal clear. King Von wasn't just a rapper, a gang member, or a headline. He was a force of nature, a man whose disrespect wasn't reckless, it was precise. The streets, the law, and the cameras all documented his rise, his audacity, and the chaos he left behind. And as we get ready to dive even deeper into the scandal, the public reactions, and the fallout, remember one thing. King Von's story isn't just shocking, it's a masterclass in audacity, survival, and disrespect. And just when you think King Von had shown you all his tricks, the scandal deepens. By 2019, the streets weren't just watching, they were waiting. Anonymous sources close to the scene tell us that Von wasn't just surviving. He was running circles around everyone who dared step in his way. Leaked reports, yes? The ones nobody else has access to, reveal that even police officers started keeping detailed tabs on his every move. One unnamed insider from a Chicago precinct whispered, "You can't underestimate him. He knows the law, the streets, and how to make you think he's 1 step behind when he's already 10 ahead." And it wasn't just bravado. It was documented in surveillance footage, in body cam recordings, and in the whispered stories of rivals too scared to speak publicly. Take, for example, the infamous incident at the Varsity restaurant in Atlanta. King Von, Lil Durk, and associates got into a heated confrontation with Alexander Witherspoon, a known member of the Vice Lords. 13 shots rang out. People fell. Cars screeched. Chaos erupted. And here's the kicker, Von wasn't running. He wasn't panicking. Witnesses report seeing him calmly navigate through the mess, even helping control the narrative among his crew. Another anonymous source claims, "Most people freeze in that situation, Von? He's laughing, giving orders, checking to make sure nobody from his team got hit. Like he was orchestrating a symphony of chaos." Social media exploded after footage leaked, with fans debating whether he was reckless or a street strategist at his peak. And then came the Chicago concert drama. Von was supposed to headline a show, but authorities swooped in preemptively. A massive police presence, assault rifles drawn, crowd pushed back, chaos meets chaos. Officers tackled Von to the ground, snatched his chain, and tried to control the scene, but he didn't flinch. He cracked jokes about Valentine's Day and his oversized hoodie while being restrained. One officer reportedly muttered, "I don't know whether to arrest him or hire him for PR." The crowd, meanwhile, was divided, half terrified, half cheering. And Von? He was untouchable in the moment, proving once again that no amount of law enforcement could break his swagger. Lil Durk would eventually bail himself out for $250,000. But Von paid $300,000, and the lesson was clear. King Von plays by his own rules, and cash isn't the limit. It's the baseline. But here's where the story gets darker, juicier, and more scandalous. Reports surfaced from insiders claiming that Von's crew wasn't just involved in petty street disputes. They were allegedly orchestrating elaborate retaliations and displays of dominance across Chicago. One unnamed member of a rival gang, referred to as 051 Freaky, reportedly had a tattoo insulting a recently deceased associate of Von Munn. The reaction? According to sources, Von didn't just confront Freaky, he decimated him in a calculated, cuffless attack, CCTV footage allegedly showing the sheer ferocity of the assault. Freaky was left bruised, humiliated, and completely shaken, while Von remained calm, collected, and, of course, completely unrepentant, even outside direct confrontations. Von's reputation for manipulating the system became legendary. In November 2017, when he faced a move to a dorm filled with rival inmates, Von pulled off what insiders call one of the most audacious survival tactics in recent memory. He claimed to be gay. Not because he was, but because the rules of the prison system would protect him. Guards, inmates, and rival gangs were all forced to accept it. Protective custody? Technically, Von never asked for it, but by bending the system in his favor, he escaped certain death without breaking any overt laws or codes. Whack 100, a notorious former gang member and prison veteran, openly criticized the move, calling it against all codes and unforgivable in prison culture. But other insiders laughed, noting that Von's audacity had literally saved his life. It wasn't cowardice, it was chess. And Von was playing a game no one else could even see. Von's public persona during these times was equally wild. Even when free on the streets, he seemed to thrive on chaos. In February 2018, video footage captured him calmly admitting murder and attempted murder charges to officers while joking about mundane things like hoodies and Valentine's Day. Social media blew up. Fans, haters, and law enforcement alike were baffled. Who does this? One fan asked online. Who laughs while literally confessing to murder on camera? That's King Von. That's the mix of fear, charisma, and complete disrespect for norms that made him legendary and terrifying at the same time. Then came the rise of his music. While many drill rappers stick to aggressive one-liners or shock value, Von brought full cinematic storytelling to the game. Every song was a reflection of his lived reality, the streets, the gangs, the hustles, the betrayals, the deaths. Tracks like Crazy Story weren't just hits, they were news broadcasts from the front lines of Chicago, relayed in first-person perspective with chilling accuracy. And even as his popularity skyrocketed, Von's mouth remained a ticking time bomb. Lil Durk, who mentored him into the label, repeatedly cautioned him in interviews to be careful. "Bro, keep your mouth shut," Durk warned on national radio. But Von's DNA wasn't programmed for caution. It was programmed for dominance. Every interview, every public appearance, every story he told true or embellished amplified his notoriety and reinforced his aura of untouchable audacity, and yet, the fallout was inevitable. Rival gangs weren't just watching, they were planning. Law enforcement wasn't just taking notes, they were plotting. Every stunt Von pulled, from cuffless jail fights to public confessions and street altercations, drew attention from people who didn't appreciate his flair for chaos. Insider reports suggest that multiple gangs, law enforcement agencies, and even local authorities in Atlanta and Chicago coordinated surveillance, monitoring his movements, trying to anticipate his next move. Von, of course, remained several steps ahead, weaving through the chaos like a ghost, leaving only legends, rumors, and jaw-dropping footage behind him. Social media exploded with speculation during this period. Fans celebrated his audacity. Bloggers dissected his every move. Leaked prison footage, body cam clips, and police reports circulated online, sparking debates about morality, genius, and criminal brilliance. One anonymous poster wrote, "Von is like a chess master playing with grenades. You don't know if he's going to checkmate you or blow the board up." Another remarked, "This man literally turns arrest into a performance art. He's untouchable and unrepentant at the same time." The public, whether fascinated or horrified, couldn't look away. And why would they? King Von had created a spectacle that was impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, insiders alleged that Von's influence within the streets extended beyond violence. Reports claim that he was involved in orchestrating local operations, controlling narratives, and even leveraging his growing fame to intimidate rivals and protect allies. In some circles, Vaughn was less a rapper and more a strategist, a master manipulator of perception and power, commanding respect in ways that most people could only dream of. And while critics accused him of glorifying crime, fans saw authenticity. A man speaking his truth without censorship, without apology, and without fear. By the end of 2019, Vaughn's life had reached a fever pitch. Rivalries, fame, law enforcement, and public scrutiny all converged, creating a perfect storm. Every viral clip, every police report, every leaked insider account painted a portrait of a man whose audacity was both his greatest weapon and his most dangerous vulnerability. The streets whispered. The fans speculated. The police strategized. And through it all, King Von remained untouchable in attitude, if not in reality, walking a tightrope that most would have already fallen from, and yet the most shocking moments were yet to come. As the public consumed every clip, every story, every scandalous interview, Vaughn's audacity set the stage for consequences that nobody could fully predict. Rival, gang members, law enforcement, and even those closest to him realized that King Von wasn't just a player in the game, he was rewriting the rules, raising stakes that were literally life or death. And for every viral clip of him smiling, joking, or dodging arrest, there was an equally shocking story of someone paying the price for crossing him or being in the wrong. Place at the wrong time. The line between entertainment and danger had never been thinner. King Von had created a narrative where every move was news, every fight was content, and every arrest was another chapter in a story that would grip Chicago, hip-hop, and social media alike. Fans marveled at his skill, critics condemned his recklessness, and everyone else just waited to see what the man who defied law, gang codes, and common sense would do next. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly where this video picks up the fallout, the consequences, and the public reaction to a man who pushed audacity to the absolute limit. By the time 2020 rolled in, King Von's audacity had caught up with him. All those viral clips, cuffless escapes, jail fights, and public confessions weren't just stories, they were evidence, rumors, and triggers for both rivals and authorities. Sources close to the situation suggest that every move Von made had a ripple effect, leaving a trail of chaos that police departments, gang factions, and media outlets couldn't ignore. The streets, which once elevated him to legendary status, began murmuring about the potential consequences. Anonymous insiders whispered that the level of attention Von attracted from rival gangs had never been seen in Chicago drill history. He had become a symbol, a lightning rod, and a target all at once. Legal experts analyzing his history noted that while Von had survived countless brushes with the law, he was always balancing on a razor's edge. Multiple arrests, fights, and public confessions meant that even a small misstep could tip the scale. Atlanta authorities, for example, were still reviewing the Varsity shooting, while Chicago's local police were dissecting his canceled concert debacle. One former prosecutor remarked, "The man is brilliant in manipulation, but brilliance doesn't erase the legal consequences of past actions." Every viral video, every fight, every confession is now a piece of the puzzle against him. And the puzzle was massive. Von's life, career, and public image had become an entangled web of criminal allegations, street legends, and social media frenzy. Meanwhile, the public reaction was as explosive as Von's own actions. Fans on Twitter and Instagram debated the fine line between genius and recklessness, while rival rappers and gang affiliates speculated on his next move. One anonymous fan account wrote, "Von doesn't just survive, he thrives in chaos. He's untouchable until he's not. It's like watching a live-action thriller every week." Critics, on the other hand, accused him of glorifying violence and flaunting criminal activity. The juxtaposition of admiration and fear created a frenzy of discussion across hip-hop forums, YouTube comment sections, and local news outlets. Every new clip of Von, whether joking in handcuffs or recounting past incidents in interviews, sparked thousands of reactions, debates, and analyses. Even Lil Durk, his mentor and label boss, had to navigate the fallout carefully. On one hand, Vaughn's rise brought attention, streams, and hype to AFF. On the other, his reckless audacity put the label and their crew at risk. Multiple industry insiders noted that Dirk repeatedly cautioned Vaughn about what he revealed publicly. "Keep your mouth shut," Dirk reportedly said during a Breakfast Club interview. But Vaughn, true to his nature, always had a quip ready. His charm was magnetic, his swagger infectious, and his ability to flirt with disaster unmatched. Rival gang factions were less amused. Sources indicate that 051, Vice Lords, and other affiliates began plotting ways to undermine Vaughn's influence. Tattoos insulting Vaughn's late friends, public confrontations, and territorial disputes escalated into heated tensions. One anonymous gang insider described Vaughn's presence as a flashpoint that everyone had to respond to. If Vaughn laughed at cuffs, manipulated officers, or strategically avoided dangerous dorms, these rivals had to adjust, retaliate, or risk losing face. The stakes weren't just street pride, they were life and death. Every misstep or escalation could trigger a chain reaction, and Vaughn thrived on walking the line between spectacle and peril. Government agencies, too, reportedly took notice. Law enforcement and federal authorities, including the ATF and FBI, were said to be monitoring Vaughn's movements, social media activity, and label associations. Investigators allegedly feared that Vaughn's connections, combined with his fearless public persona, could lead to larger-scale incidents. One unnamed source revealed, "We were watching him like a chessboard." Every move had implications, not just locally, but potentially nationally. And while Vaughn remained unaware of the full scope, his instinctual audacity continued to drive him forward. Always 2 steps ahead of the authorities tracking him. Social media amplified every incident. From police confrontations to jail fights, Vaughn's life was a 24/7 spectacle for fans and critics alike. Viral clips, like him joking about murder charges in a police car, spread across platforms with millions of views, making Vaughn an almost mythical figure. Reactions ranged from awe to fear, with commentators asking, "Is this man a criminal genius or just reckless?" One YouTube commenter even said, "Vaughn is like a combination of Sherlock Holmes and Tony Montana. You never know what he'll do next, but you can't look away." That's the power of Vaughn's story, the intersection of talent, chaos, and sheer audacity that commands attention. Meanwhile, the rap world watched intently. Vaughn's storytelling, particularly in Crazy Story and subsequent tracks, drew comparisons to legends like Slick Rick, Scarface, and Biggie Smalls, not just for lyrical content, but for the real-life drama that fueled his music. The lines between art and life blurred. His lyrics weren't just songs, they were evidence, confessions, and street reports, making fans feel like they were witnessing a live documentary of Chicago's most dangerous blocks. Industry insiders speculated about potential collaborations, while critics questioned the morality of profiting from crime. Yet the allure of Vaughn's authenticity remained undeniable, but the most explosive element was yet to come. Rumors of retaliation, gang rivalries, and legal investigations created a tense atmosphere where every public appearance, social media post, or leaked clip could ignite chaos. Sources claim that even minor interactions with fans or rivals had to be calculated. Vaughn's network, his crew, and even label affiliates had to remain vigilant, constantly adjusting strategies to avoid potential fallout. One insider noted, "It wasn't just about surviving, he had to anticipate everyone's reaction, every potential threat, every law enforcement move. And somehow, he did it again and again." And yet, despite all the chaos, Vaughn's charisma and intelligence left an indelible mark. Police officers, rival gang members, and even casual observers acknowledged his audacity. Video footage shows him calmly navigating arrests, confrontations, and legal entanglements with a confidence that seemed untouchable. Public perception was split between admiration for his intelligence and concern for his reckless disregard for rules. Vaughn's story became a case study in how a man could manipulate perception, survive extreme environments, and dominate both streets and social media simultaneously. Legal experts speculated that had Vaughn not been killed, he could have faced multiple charges ranging from attempted murder to weapons violations. all complicated by his history of jail escapes and public confessions. Sources suggest that federal authorities were exploring investigations into his crew, associates, and even the label, trying to piece together the full extent of his influence. And yet, Von's fans saw him as a legend, a man who could survive and thrive where others would falter. A figure whose audacity became both his greatest asset and ultimate vulnerability. As public outrage, police investigations, and media frenzy escalated, the line between hero and criminal blurred. Von's life, actions, and persona created a storm where the streets, the law, and the entertainment world collided in spectacular fashion. Analysts, fans, and journalists alike debated whether he was a mastermind, a risk-taker, or simply a man living life on his own terms, daring anyone to challenge him. And the truth? It was all of the above. Every viral clip, every fight, every confrontation, every leaked interview became part of the legend. King Von wasn't just a man. He was a force of nature, a phenomenon, a viral spectacle that no system, gang, or audience could fully contain. And as the world watched, the question lingered. How much more could one man push the limits before the streets, rivals, and law caught up with him? From cuffless jail fights to public confessions, from gang rivalries to viral music, Von's life story created a narrative that was both entertainment and tragedy. Fans marveled at his audacity, critics condemned his recklessness, and everyone else watched, transfixed, as he navigated a world designed to consume men like him. And through it all, one truth remained. King Von didn't just survive, he commanded attention, shaped narratives, and forced the world to respect him, even when it feared him. As we move toward the aftermath, the consequences, and the shocking final chapter of this story, remember one thing: Von's audacity didn't just make headlines, it rewrote the rules of survival. Notoriety and entertainment, leaving the streets, the rap world, and the public questioning everything they thought they knew. So, what do you think? Was King Von a street genius, a reckless thrill-seeker, or something even darker? The man who escaped cuffs, manipulated police, survived rival gangs, and still climbed the rap charts left the world with more questions than answers. How many albums, stories, and moments did we lose because of the chaos? We lose because of the chaos.